DreamWorks has a long catalog of films, and some films are just left on their own, or there are some films that may have a second or third film that may feel like it may need a movie to close out a franchise, or a movie just simply needs a sequel. And there are some that don't need a sequel, they can stay on their own. But today I want to cover this topic because I've seen a lot of comments of a lot of wishes for certain sequels, such as obviously Captain Underpants 2. Specifically, there's a large group of people for the Rise of Guardians to come back. And, well, there was a group for Megamind 2, but I still don't consider that canon at all. But today, I want to cover these topics, and let me know down in the comments what you guys think. What DreamWorks movies do you think should get sequels? Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and let's get into it. Obviously, starting off, we have Shrek. Now, this one, it's most likely gonna happen. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish had ended off with Puss, Kitty Softpaws, and Burrito all on a ship to meet some old friends, which is obviously Shrek and the rest of the gang. So Shrek 5 is definitely happening at some point, we just don't know when. We're not sure if it's gonna be 2025, because DreamWorks usually drops 2 movies a year, and those 2 movies looks like it's gonna be Dogman and The Bad Guys 2, but we'll just have to see. As for how I feel about it, I mean, Shrek Forever After wasn't a fine conclusion, so a Shrek 5 really only seems there because it's DreamWorks' biggest franchise. Of course they have to make it. But if there's a reason for it to exist, we'll just have to see. Puss in Boots 3, on the other hand, that I can see happening and having a reason to happen. Honestly, nobody expected a sequel to Puss in Boots to be good, but here we are, it's still being one of the most acclaimed animated movies of 2022. And in regards to a third movie, it's very likely. A lot of people would show up for a Puss in Boots 3. There's lots of stories to tell in this fairy tale universe, and it feels right to complete this as a trilogy. A Puss in Boots trilogy would be nice to have, you know? The first movie was good, second movie amazing, and who knows what's in store for the third movie. There's a lot more things to be explored there. That's just my personal opinion. A Shrek 5 would be nice, but a Puss in Boots 3 just makes sense financially and just at a general standpoint of how people would enjoy it. Next is Kung Fu Panda, of course, which just released on digital a few days ago, and it did amazing at the box office, ranking at $400 million, so a Kung Fu Panda 5 is obviously in the works. I just personally don't want Mike Mitchell working on that movie at all. But something personally I want to happen is a Furious 5 movie. Now, this has been brought up a lot around the internet, and I honestly think it can work. A lot of people didn't think that Puss in Boots was going to be able to work as a movie, but here we are, it made $500 million, and now it got a sequel, and now it's even more popular on its own. Puss in Boots is his own character at this point now. A Furious 5 movie could really work. I mean, it would be nice to see where they were all out during Kung Fu Panda 4, or them just having a solo adventure after Kung Fu Panda 4. It would be really nice to see, you know, a deeper insight into these characters, because they're always there in the movies, but we never really got the main focus on them. So that would be really nice to have them as a solo film. And if it did happen, I'd be all on board. As long as Mike Mitchell's not involved, please. And the third one being How to Train Your Dragon. Now, this one, I have to be straight up, no. I don't think it necessarily needs a sequel. The Hidden World ended off on a really good note, and I just don't see a reason for continuing Hiccup's story, because his arc is pretty much complete. And what they did with the 9 Realms just proved that this just couldn't work as a whole, because it just didn't. Maybe it was the writers on the show. I just don't think How to Train Your Dragon should move forward past the Hidden World. But there is a live-action movie in the works that is actually supposed to release next year. This is an exception for animation. It's going to be live action. The live-action How to Train Your Dragon movie, thankfully, isn't going to be a copy and paste of the first How to Train Your Dragon movie. It will take inspirations, obviously, but it's going to be more in tale of what the actual book of How to Train Your Dragon did, and, elements from that weren't in the original animated movie. So there may be some things to like. I don't think it's gonna end up like a Disney remake where we're just walking out of the theater so disappointed that it shouldn't even exist. But I do think if the How to Train Your Dragon live action movie does really well, we may see stuff after that. Because I know DreamWorks has been finding every reason to continue How to Train Your Dragon, because it is one of their most popular franchises. And yeah, it just makes the most sense in my opinion. Coming up next is Madagascar. Now, this one was announced a long time ago, but just faded out of existence. And I'm surprised it was never brought up. We got the Croods 2, but we didn't get another Madagascar movie? Or even something relating to Penguins of Madagascar? That is really surprising, based on how successful the franchise has been, and there's been nothing. CinemaCon was this week. We obviously were going to hear stuff about The Wild Robot, but nothing else, no new announcement about any other movies. It seems like the movies that DreamWorks is mostly focusing on now is The Wild Robot, the Dogman movie, the live-action How to Train Your Dragon movie, and The Bad Guys 2, which I guess we can segue into our next topic, being The Bad Guys. Now, this is getting a sequel, and I was supposed to make a separate video about it, but I think it's just best to talk about it here. It can work as a sequel, because it's obviously a book series, but this plot description is falling a little too in line with Megamind 2, and I'm not sure how to feel about it. Hopefully, it won't turn out like that. I'm sure it won't, but it's a little worrisome. But I think they can maybe make this work. The villain turn hero thing in these movies just haven't been hitting the mark. So I'm cautious for The Bad Guys 2, but I'm sure it'll turn out fine. Now this is the section where I'm just going to spitball movies that just generally don't need sequels. Not just because they're bad, just there's no need for a sequel at all. B-movie does not need a sequel at all. It is a movie that exists and it doesn't need to be expanded upon anymore. Shark Tale, another movie, really doesn't need anything after that. I would say Boss Baby, but chances are it's gonna get a third movie. Even though the second movie really didn't do well. It only made $100 million at the box office and released on the same day on Peacock, and nobody liked it. But maybe we'll see if DreamWorks is just gonna milk it out of the franchise. I expect Trolls to continue, so that's another franchise. But I just think that there's one franchise I think is probably the most deserving of a sequel, and it's actually two. And that being, obviously, Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. I've been talking about this for almost a year now. I don't like to think about that. But Captain Underpants is a movie that is such an underrated gem. It just didn't come out in the best of months. I'm sure if it came out in another month, it would have been a lot more successful. And it's a movie that could be expanded upon into so many different stories. I mean, we have the show, but just another movie like that would be just amazing. And they can go in so many directions. It's all kind of leading on how the Dogman movie does, which I'm sure is going to be a hit. Dogman has a pretty popular fan base, and honestly, might be surpassing Captain Underpants just by a little bit. But I think that if this movie does really well, Dogman, I think Captain Underpants 2 might have a better shot of it succeeding. Maybe we'll get a post-credit scene of something relating to Captain Underpants, who knows. But I think if Dogman does well enough, DreamWorks will have more faith in Dave Pilkey adaptations, and I do think that Captain Underpants will someday make a return. It's got to. I mean, it was called the first epic movie. You don't call a movie the first epic movie and then not make a sequel. I mean, really? Another movie that a lot of people have really wanted is A Rise of the Guardians 2. This is a movie DreamWorks dropped that a lot of people loved, and DreamWorks just said peace out with it. There was no news about anything coming of it in these past few years, and there is so much to tell with this movie that one movie just doesn't do it justice. Hell, even a trilogy could work with this movie. So it's really surprising to me that DreamWorks really left this franchise on the back burner and really didn't do anything really with it. And, maybe sometime in the future, if there's enough outcry, maybe we'll see a resurgence in the movie. But don't do a Megamind 2 where it got popular again, and then you make a movie over it. Don't do that. Make a sequel to Rise of the Guardians. I'm really sure that it can do well. There's a lot of holidays that they can pull from, and just expand the universe, because it was so grand in scale with the first movie. There are so many things they can do with the second. So that's something I'd actually be looking forward to. Next is Megamind. Now, before you say anything, I mean a real Megamind 2. Not whatever this was, a real true sequel to the first movie that has Will Ferrell come back, everyone come back, and actually makes it a true sequel. The Button of Doom, honestly, is the true sequel to Megamind. Now, it's kind of difficult to do this with, the villain turned hero story, but with the right people behind it, I feel like they can some way make it work. They kind of half-assed it with the show and the Doom Syndicate movie. So, maybe. I don't expect it, but maybe sometime down in the future, DreamWorks gets desperate and we actually do get a real Megamind 2. Because it's really sad we didn't get one. Because if we did get a real one, people would actually show up and, maybe it would have been a good movie. Movies that also were talked about with sequels and then just never appeared were movies like Monsters vs. Aliens. A movie I think could actually work as a sequel. Just forming the plot would be, kind of a tough task to do. Another one would be Mr. Peabody and Sherman. I had said that last year and I apologize. That was not a sequel in the works. So honestly, I don't know if we're getting anything out of that. And Over the Edge, a movie people still talk about to this day, and maybe one day we'll see something from it. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. And there is one movie that, honestly, it has a franchise that could be expanded upon greatly, and there's a fan base that keeps pushing for it, but I'm not sure if it's gonna happen. But Ruby Gilman, Teenage Kraken. Now, before you all get on me, yes, this movie really didn't do well at the box office. It had some decent reviews, but the way this movie went out with its little advertising, its little anything honestly for this movie, the story felt a little half-baked and really only felt so fast-paced because it only had a 1 hour and 30-minute runtime, which DreamWorks has a tendency to kind of force so they have more runtimes and just better, they have more slots in theaters by having a shorter runtime. That's kind of how Illumination movies make so much money. They have so many slots to play their movies. But with Ruby Gilman, Teenage Kraken, it probably felt rushed because they didn't have time to flesh out these characters. And I think the most likely option for Ruby Gilman, Teenage Kraken is for it to get a show. It just doesn't seem financially reasonable to give it a sequel. Nobody in a DreamWorks writing room or executives would say, yeah, let's get started on a Ruby Gilman sequel. No, that just wouldn't work. If a TV series had come out, maybe that can work. And make it 2D animated, please, for the love of God. But I think the best option to go with the movie is a show. Almost every DreamWorks movie has gotten at least something. So maybe Ruby Gilman one day down the line will at least get something. Now those are my thoughts on some of these DreamWorks franchises. There are some that do, and there's some that don't. But it's collab time. Today we have a new YouTuber on the channel, and that is D Animations. This is a YouTuber that I've been watching for quite a while, and he has some really good videos. So let's hear his thoughts on this topic.
Thank you so much for summoning me from the depth of the YouTube abyss. Well, to the question of whether DreamWorks projects are worthy or unworthy of continuation, I will give a simply but not obvious answer. Any existing work has the right to be continued if the authors or right holders wish so. However, without an audience, any work is meaningless, which means that the viewer ultimately decides whether a continuation is worth making or not. Usually, we make this decision based on our preferences, whether we like the animated film or whether we want to see familiar characters again. But it's much simpler than that. If the script is good and the right people are involved in the continuation, the audience will always enjoy it. Any good work will find its fan. And we have a proof of that. Nobody expected Puss in Boots 2, but we got an incredible masterpiece. On the other hand, everyone was waiting for the sequel to Megamind for years, but we got total garbage. And these are all projects of DreamWorks. It all comes down to a desire, effort, script, and the people behind the continuation. If we give the opportunity to those who truly want to make a continuation and provide them with experienced assistance, any idea and any sequel can become wonderful within a year or two. I hope this answer satisfies you, and now I'm heading back to my channel, so drop by sometime.
Thanks to D Animations for coming on for this video. Make sure to go check out his channel down below. I'll leave it in the description and also in the comments. But yeah, those are my thoughts on which DreamWorks movies should get sequels and which ones just should stay on their own, not really needing to expand on their own franchise. But I'm curious, what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace out.